everyone, I'm Cambria from Children's Ministry, and I just wanted to share with you guys a couple of verses that have really been reminding me and challenging me to stop, slow down, and listen to God in the silence. So I'll be reading from 1 Kings 19 verses 9 through 13, and it says, this is Elijah's encounter with God. Suddenly the word of the Lord came to him, and he said to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He replied, "I have been very zealous for the Lord God of armies and the Israelites that have abandoned your covenant, tore down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are looking for me to take my life." Then he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the Lord's presence." At that moment the Lord passed by. A great and mighty wind was tearing at the mountains and was shattering cliffs before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire there was a voice, a soft whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. I don't know about you guys, but the best word that I could think of to describe these last couple months is loud. I have just felt so inundated with noise that's distracting and pulling my attention away from God. I have been searching for God in that noise and in these big, shaking, changing events that have been going on around us. And I feel like we too often look for God in the loudness. From personal experience, I feel him most when the worship music is turned all the way up, or I hear him through other people's words or social media posts or popular podcasts. I notice him working when a devotional and this week's sermon line up perfectly, like he's trying to tell me something important. I feel him moving or making a point when big events and changes are all over the news. Most often I look to the loudest places for signs that he is there. But Elijah looked in the earthquake just as I look to the podcast. Elijah was expecting to see God in this powerful, in-your-face, natural phenomenon, just like I expect to find messages from God in these earthly places that I get all my other messages, like social media, text messages, other space-filling noise. I constantly fill every inch of open space with distractions and then wonder why I'm not feeling a connection or receiving a message from God. In John 10:4 it says, "When he puts forth all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice." Deep down as God's sheep, we know that he is not a God of chaos and storms and fires. We know that he could use those things for his purposes and for his glories, but he's not bound within them. We know in our souls that his voice is gentle, leading us by still waters to quiet green pastures. Just because you can't hear his voice over the storm does not mean that he isn't speaking, moving, working around you and in you. We can face the storm, we can face the fire, we can face this pandemic and wait for his still, soft, familiar voice of our shepherd to speak to us. Silence is not just solitude, it's also an act of worship. And amidst all the loudness and constant noise filling up our day-to-day, we can consecrate this space for the still small voice to speak the words into our souls that we so desperately are longing for and need. This reminder and this set of verses has just been encouraging me to take a break, to slow down, to stop the noise around me and patiently listen for the voice of my shepherd. Maybe take a drive home without the music blaring and sit in the silence, or take a break from scrolling on social media and sit in his presence. His still voice has so much grace to be spoken over us if we would just make the space for it. So I hope this encourages you like it encourages me. I hope that you could think about making that space this week when you're feeling inundated and overwhelmed with all the stuff that's going around us, that you could just sit in silence in the presence of your God and in the presence of our loving Father, and that he would speak into us, restore us, revive us, give us this renewed hope in him and in these crazy times that he has everything in the palm of his hand. So I pray that this reaches you well, Bridge. Thanks for listening.